In the Father's will, I could heal you. Right now. And you'd have a good story to tell, yes?
Yes, that you do miracles.
And that's a good story. But there are already dozens who can tell that story. And there will be hundreds more, even thousands. But think of the story that you have, especially in this journey to come, if I don't heal you. To know how to proclaim that you still praise God in spite of this. To know how to focus on all that matters, so much more than the body. To show people that you can be patient with your suffering here on earth because you know you'll spend eternity with no suffering. Not everyone can understand that. How many people do you think the Father and I trust this with? Not many.
But the others, there's so much more.
So much more what?
I don't know. Stronger? Better at this?
James, I love you. But I don't want to hear that ever again.
I know how easy it is to say the Song of David, that I fearfully and wonderfully made. But it doesn't make this any easier. And in this group, it doesn't make me feel like any less of a burden.
A burden? First of all, it is far easier to deal with your slow walking than it is to deal with Simon's temper. Trust me. Are you fast? Do you look impressive when you walk? Maybe not. But these are things the Father doesn't care about. You are going to do more for me than most people ever dream.
Hi everybody, my name is Precious, and for my video I decided to do The Chosen, season 3, episode 2. And there's one little section of that episode, of the whole episode, that I really love, and it's Jesus talking to little James. And when he's talking to little James, a theme that I saw two themes that I saw that was really important and common was suffering, or long suffering, and joy in the midst of sorrow. Okay, so in that clip, which you will see before, you probably have watched it before you see me talking. In that clip, you will see Jesus talking to little James about his leg. And little James is basically, in a way, not complaining, but he is expressing his grief to Jesus, saying how he would like to be healed and why hasn't he been healed, or how can he go out there and heal other people when he hasn't been healed. And for a little bit of context, Jesus was sending out the disciples, his 12 disciples, out in groups of 2 to go out there and minister and just heal and prophesy and just spread the word of God to other people, right? And little James was one of his disciples, and he was one of the people who was sent out to go heal, prophesy, and minister. And little James is like, how am I supposed to go out there and heal and prophesy and talk to other people when I'm here? I still have my own disability. I'm still struggling with my own things. How am I supposed to go out there and tell people that all these things, and I'm still here? I'm not healed yet. I'm still going through it. I'm still suffering and all that good stuff. And Jesus is just like, in God's will, I could heal you right here, right now. Little James was like, yeah, I would like that. But it would be so much better if you would go out there in your condition as who you are with someone, because little James had a limp. That was his condition. He was limp, and it slowed him down. He didn't walk as fast and all that stuff, right? He had a limp. So yeah. And Jesus was like, with someone with your condition, it will be very, very, very beautiful to just see you heal other people of their sickness, of their disabilities, of their mental illness and all that stuff, right? And little James just felt like a burden. And Jesus was like, you are not a burden. And Jesus was reassuring him and letting him know that he is loved and that God doesn't see mental illness. God doesn't see disabilities. God doesn't see your afflictions. He doesn't see your trauma. Well, he does see all those things, but he doesn't define you by those things. Does that make sense? God sees your trauma. He sees your disabilities. He sees everything that has been done to you in this life, right? But he doesn't define you by it. That's what I mean by God doesn't see trauma. Okay, he does see everything that happens to you and that is going to happen to you, but he doesn't define you by those things. Okay, so the first theme is long suffering. Jesus wanted little James to understand, to know that there is a testimony in his suffering. Okay, like with him going out there and just doing all the things that God has called him to do, that there was a testimony with, if you, again, he had a disability. So imagine someone with a disability healing someone, prophesying and praying for other people. God wanted little James to understand that his story and who he is, everything that makes him him, is a testimony to God's name, right? And also, God didn't heal little James because he didn't want to, or because he doesn't know how to heal little James. God didn't heal little James because he wanted little James to understand that not everybody in this world will be healed of everything that they have going on. There are some people that are going to have to learn how to deal, or I don't want to use the word manage, but there are some people in this world that are going to have to learn how to walk through life with the things they have going on. So not everybody's going to be healed from depression, anxiety, a limp, or whatever they have going on. Not everybody's going to be healed from that, but some people will have to learn how to just maneuver through life while dealing with it. Does that make sense? So for me, for example, I may never be healed from, anxiety, but with God, I can learn how to deal and walk with it and manage it. Does that make sense? And yeah, and also another thing is he wanted little James to learn that in this life there will be suffering. In this life you will be sad, and in this life you will go through things that will make you question things, just like little James did. Little James brought his concerns to Jesus. He wasn't scared, and Jesus stood there, listened to him, and then replied with love and care and mercy. All right, the second theme is joy in the midst of sorrow. Based off what I watched and just what I was getting from it, I believe that Jesus also wanted little James to have joy in his suffering. And what I mean by joy is, I mean like some amount of rest and peace and acknowledgement of what he is currently going through, but also knowing that God is still good and God still has him and God will never leave or forsake him. Does that make sense? So for example, let's just say that I lost a grandmother or a friend of mine, right? And that person was really dear to my heart. What joy looks like in that situation where you're like, well, how can you have joy and you just lost someone who was, and you may be like, well, Precious, how are you going to have joy when you just lost someone that was really, really, really important to you? Joy means that, yes, joy is acknowledging the fact that my grandmother or whoever in the situation is acknowledging that that person is no longer with me, that person has passed, that person has moved on, and that person, I will miss that person, right? But at the same time, God is still good. God is still present. God still has his best interest for me. Does that make sense? So joy is being able to acknowledge your situation, your circumstance, acknowledge your pain, your sorrow, your suffering, and still having a mindset that God is still good. Does that make sense? So that's exactly the two themes that I really, really got out of that one scene. I could have done the whole episode, but there was a lot of themes throughout the entire episode. But that one scene really stuck with me. It's impacted me a lot, and it's taught me a lot in my personal life as well. So I hope you got something from this. And yeah, bye, Dr. Hill.